Well, hello there. This is Tam from Asian Efficiency. I'm shooting another video here in Macau, and I'm still at the Conrad here, which I'm really enjoying so far. And today I want to shoot another video for you and talk a little bit about a special topic that's close to me. And that topic is journaling. So I always get asked, Tan, what's the benefit of journaling? Why would you journal? Why do you do it? And do you have any tips to keep it consistently going? And but before I dive into that, the number one question I usually get when it comes to journaling is digital or paper. So I'm a big paperless guy. I don't have a lot of paper. Like when you check my apartment, there's not a lot of paper around. I prefer to keep everything digital, so I try to scan as much as I can. But the one exception is for journaling. So I find personally that whenever I write in my journal, that I get more benefit out of it. And I think there's a couple of reasons for this. One is when I try to do it digitally, because I tend to work behind my computer most of the days, whenever I try to journal, it doesn't feel like I'm reflecting on what I did. It just feels like I'm working, because literally when I'm behind my computer, it's when I'm working. Like that's my sort of working device. When it comes to like being reflective and thinking about stuff, I don't do that behind a computer. I do that elsewhere. So that's why I avoid digital. The other is just something about writing it down that makes it more powerful. It's just easier to remember. You sort of see it. It's like imprinted almost. So I could go on and on and on, but from my personal experience, doing it on paper is more powerful. So when I first started off, I had a regular Moleskine, so I would carry this with me everywhere. This is an older one that I almost filled up. But I actually found this in my parents' place. So before I started traveling, I was at my parents' place, and they gave me this journal, and they said they didn't read it, which I hope is true. But this is literally from June 27, 2012. So it's roughly 3 years ago. And that says, this will be my daily journal while I'm in Bangkok. So 3 years ago, I was in Bangkok. And I was reading through this, and I'll get to that in a second. But basically, I was reading through this, and I thought, wow, I'm such a different person now. My quality of thinking is so much better now. I was almost embarrassed to read what I wrote down because I just couldn't believe I wrote this down. So, but going back to, Moleskine, highly recommended. I think it's great. One thing I've been recently switching to is the Evernote Moleskine, but specifically the grit one. So I don't know if you can actually see it, but there's no lines. It's just all grit. And the reason for that is I've been really into diagramming and drawing, and I find it easier to do when you have a grit than just like lines. So I take this everywhere, like all the masterminds I go to, all the conferences I go to, all the events I go to, and I use this to sort of capture stuff and then also journal. So it's kind of a combination of both things. And the great thing about this Evernote one is that when you scan it, it's immediately in your Evernote account, which you can do with the regular thing as well. But it then also OCR'd, and it comes with a couple stickers that I don't personally use, but I know some people do, and they get a lot of benefit out of that. So paper, I think, is the way to go. As far as how often I do it once a day. So usually at 8 o'clock at night. That's when I journal, and I find that when I sort of get away from my computer and really sort of reflect on how my day went and what I did, that I get more benefit out of it that way. So I find doing it late at night, not before you go to bed, because then you're thinking about other stuff, and but it's usually before my evening ritual. So before my evening ritual start, that's when I journal and start to reflect. So what should you write? What should you question yourself on? We have a whole podcast on that, and I actually recommend that one. So if you go to theproductivityshow.com/2, so just the number 2, you will get the podcast where Aaron shares his questions, and it has a link to a post as well that Aaron wrote on journaling. So I highly recommend that one. So theproductivityshow.com/2. Go to that, and then you will see his set of questions that you can use. And then also, my pro tip for that is keep it as short as possible. So even though Aaron might talk about like 10, 15 questions, I would just start with 1 or 2 and just make it consistently a ritual that you do. And then over time, it gets easier and easier and easier, and then you can introduce more questions. Because if you start off with 10 questions, it kind of feels like a chore every time you do it. And then that's not easy then to maintain, right? So you want to make it easy, you want to make it exciting. And if you're just starting off, you've never journaled, I would just keep it positively focused. And then over a long period of time, once you're sort of used to journaling, then introduce something where you challenge yourself, where maybe you ask yourself, what is something I didn't enjoy today? What is something that I could have done better? What is something that I had negative feelings around? So I know for some people that's kind of scary to write down, but it's actually really powerful when you can do that. But I would recommend it if you're already sort of in the habit of journaling, because then later on when you introduce it and you really try to reflect on it, you'll start to see how much you're growing, how much your quality of thinking improves. And that's why when I mentioned earlier, when I was reading my older Moleskine, I just couldn't believe all the stuff that I was writing and thinking. And then looking back, I'm like, wow, I've changed so much. I become such a better communicator, a better person, and all these negative thoughts that I had at this time is non-existent. So I'm sort of glad that I found this, or that my parents found it. And that's really the power of journaling, right? Is to have a written record of what your quality thinking was like, what you did at that time, and then being able to see that you're making progress. And that's really the power, is progress equals happiness. You might have heard of this before, but just being able to see yourself improve over and over and over, really powerful. And it gives you like a boost of dopamine, but if you do that on a regular basis, you'll start to see that all this hard work you're putting into this particular project or whatever you're working on, whether that's a personal goal, something at work, when you have a written record of what you did, you'll start to see all the progress that you're making. So just to sort of recap, definitely go to theproductivityshow.com/2, listen to that podcast episode and check out the links over there. As far as digital paper, go paper. That's something I would recommend. And then as far as questions, make sure to check out the podcast episode. But get started today, okay? Get a Moleskine or get a piece of paper or something. Write down 1 or 2 things, and maybe just start off with, what did I do today? What is something that I enjoyed? Just those 2 questions are great, I think. And just get started. So don't worry about any negative thoughts that you might have. If you don't want to write them down, that's okay. Just get in the habit of writing down your thoughts. And if you start off positively, then over time you can introduce the negatives and see how you can grow beyond that. So I hope you enjoyed that. If you want to have more videos coming from us, make sure you follow us on YouTube. So go to youtube.com/Asian Efficiency, or if you want to make sure you stay up to date with all the things that we do that we only share in email, make sure to go to asianefficiency.com and subscribe there. And I look forward to seeing you next time.